A warm greeting. Today is Sunday, September 22, 2024. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia speaking. At the time of recording this video, it is 9:15 in the morning local time in the Western Caribbean Sea and the southeastern United States, where people should be closely monitoring the evolution of a low-pressure system that has developed in the Western Caribbean. It is projected to become Tropical Storm Helene in the coming days, as it moves towards the states of Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. Additionally, this future tropical cyclone will bring heavy rain across Jamaica, western Cuba, parts of the Yucatan Peninsula, and later I will show the total expected rainfall accumulations over the coming days. Before discussing this disturbance and the Central American gyre, I briefly wanted to mention that in the Eastern Pacific region, we are monitoring two areas of low pressure that pose a threat to Guatemala and the states of Chiapas, Oaxaca, and Guerrero in Mexico. It is possible that two tropical cyclones could develop. Now, let's return to the Western Caribbean, where you can see an increase in cloudiness and thunderstorms related to the development of a Central American gyre. This will cause heavy rains and flooding across Central America. According to the latest forecast from NOAA, between 300 and 400 millimeters of rain could fall in parts of western Nicaragua, southern Honduras, and El Salvador. Other areas like western Cuba could receive between 150 and 250 millimeters of accumulated rain. Intense rain is also projected for southern Guatemala, Chiapas, and parts of Oaxaca and Guerrero. This is the rainfall forecast for the next 5 days, meaning until September 27th. Looking at the infrared satellite animation of the Western Caribbean, you can see heavy downpours and thunderstorms forming south of Jamaica. Of interest is the area that has developed east of Nicaragua and Honduras, where we already have a low-pressure system that we will be watching closely as it moves northwestward. The next 48 hours will be crucial because the faster this low-pressure system organizes over the waters of the Western Caribbean, the greater the risk for western Cuba and the Florida Peninsula. So please continue to monitor updates from the National Hurricane Center, as this disturbance is showing signs of organization. The National Hurricane Center has increased the probability of this low developing into a tropical depression to 70% in the Western Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico. In general, the system is expected to track north-northeast, eventually reaching the southeastern United States. Along its path, it will pass through areas where sea surface temperatures are extremely warm for this time of year, which could help this future Tropical Storm Helene develop and strengthen. Now, let's look at the latest projections from global models, which have reached a better consensus today on the future development and path of this disturbance. Starting with the GFS model, it shows the development of a strong low-pressure system, possibly a tropical depression, by the early hours of Monday, just northeast of Honduras. In this projection, the system strengthens into a strong tropical storm or even a Category 1 hurricane as it passes near or over the Yucatan Peninsula or western Cuba by Wednesday morning. The latest run of the American model is quite aggressive in strengthening this system over the next 72 hours. Eventually, between Thursday and Friday, it further strengthens the potential Tropical Storm Helene into a Category 2 or Category 3 hurricane, eventually reaching Florida's Panhandle, Alabama, and Georgia by Thursday night or early Friday morning. This is a 6-day forecast, so the risk of a direct impact on the southeastern United States is increasing significantly. The European model shows a very similar scenario to the American model, with a strong low-pressure system, possibly a tropical depression, developing south of Cuba by Monday night, and moving over the Yucatan Peninsula as a tropical storm by Wednesday morning. Then, like the American model, it tracks north-northeast, eventually reaching Florida's Big Bend as a Category 1 hurricane, and moving over Georgia between Thursday and Friday. There is consensus between the two top models that the southeastern U.S. could be affected by a hurricane, and we'll be watching closely in case it strengthens more than anticipated. The German model, in its latest run, shows a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane making landfall in Florida's Big Bend by next Saturday, with a much slower trajectory. In conclusion, the intensity of this future tropical storm or hurricane will depend on how much time it spends over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. If it moves more slowly, we could be looking at a major hurricane, whereas a faster trajectory could result in a Category 1 or 2 storm. The UK model also projects a Category 1 hurricane making landfall somewhere in Florida's Big Bend by Friday morning. We can see these different scenarios in the ensemble members of the American model. Most of them develop a tropical depression just east of the Yucatan Peninsula, or southwest of Pinar del Rio in Cuba, and the vast majority maintain that path over northern Florida as a Category 2 hurricane. However, other members show a less likely scenario with a slightly more westward trajectory, potentially posing a threat to Mississippi and Alabama. Although it is important for Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana to closely monitor the evolution of this disturbance, the greatest risk seems to be for northern Florida and southern Georgia. The ensemble members of the European model generally agree with these trajectories, showing a tropical depression or tropical storm passing near or over the Yucatan Peninsula and western Cuba. In this case, they show a slightly more westward trajectory over Florida's Big Bend, eventually moving over western Georgia and eastern Alabama. There's a lot to watch over the coming days, especially to see whether it will move further east over northern Florida, or remain a bit more westward over Florida's Big Bend and Alabama. Here on Hurricane Info, I will continue monitoring the situation closely, so I'll be recording videos over the next few days. To make sure you don't miss this content, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and click the bell so you get notifications when I upload new videos. I hope everyone has an excellent Sunday, and I'll keep an eye on what's happening in the Eastern Pacific as well as in the Caribbean region. See you later.